Hey everyone, thanks for tuning in to today's video. We're going to have a look at the weather for the next 8 to 10 days in today's video. This takes us into October, up to the 3rd of October, so on into the next month. Been a remarkably dry and quite warm September. It's not going to be anywhere near the warmest on record, which was in 2006. It's been a pretty warm month. Probably going to end up the warmest since 2006, and probably almost certainly actually going to end up warmer than August. Of course, August was quite cool, so that doesn't happen very often, that you get September warmer than the preceding August, but it looks like that's what could well occur this year. But it's really the dryness that's been the main thing about this particular September. Been a very, very dry month with a lot of anticyclonic influences. Whether it'll be quite the driest on record, I'm not sure, because September is often quite a dry month at the best of times. But this is right at the far end of the scale of how dry September often is. It looks like that weather is going on into October as well, with a lot of high pressure continuing. We'll have a look at the charts in a moment. Before we go on that, I just want to say about the ads. Now, there's links to articles sitting underneath this video here at GazWeatherViz.com. Have a browse through those links. There's some very interesting links in there. I've had a look at them myself. Have a look through, see if there's any articles that you're interested in. If you are, just click through the link. You'll be able to go off and read the article. At the same time, GazWeatherViz gets a royalty fee on what you're doing, and thanks very much for doing that. So, just to start off with the 500 millibar height anomaly flowcharts, next week to 10 days, as we often do in these videos. We've got the ECMWF here over on the left, the GFS is on the right. 500 millibars, 80,000 feet, is an area in the atmosphere where we've got high pressure and low pressure being moved around by the jet stream running above. Blue is extrapolating to low pressure, and orange and red extrapolating to high pressure. Now, both the ECMWF and the GFS are indicating a really deep trough in the central part of the Atlantic, so low pressure autumnal conditions are not far away in the next week to 10 days. Got this very deep trough in the Atlantic, but with the jet stream running to the north of a big ridge of high pressure sitting over and to the east of the British Isles, we remain locked into anticyclonic conditions. So we're firmly under this very large and vast sort of red and orange area on both of these two models, the ECM and the GFS. High pressure is well and truly in command, with the low pressure, a deep trough. It is a deep trough, it's a very autumnal trough, locked out in the central part of the Atlantic. Now, because that trough is so deep, it will be putting pressure onto the high pressure. So, will this eventually lead to a breakdown of the anticyclonic conditions? That's what the GFS, the extended GFS this morning, is seeing. I'm not convinced about it, but we've got to keep a close on it, because that is a very deep trough, very autumnal trough of low pressure in the central part of the Atlantic. It will be pushing weather systems into the high pressure, and with such a strong jet stream as well, indicated by these tight lines running just to the north and west of high pressure, that high will be coming under increasing attack. It will be, the Atlantic will be trying to break it down. Whether it actually does, it's too far away to say, but we have got to keep a close eye on it, because it's that sort of deep trough that will eventually break us out of this prolonged dry and warm spell of weather. But whether it's that particular trough, it's too far away to be certain. These are the GFS temperature and precipitation ensembles. The temperatures, first of all, the red line here is the 30-year temperature average, and we can see that at the moment we're around the red line, around the 30-year average. Could even go a little bit below just for a few hours in a couple of days' time. Excuse me, but then as we get through towards the end of the week, we find those temperatures lifting up, and we're in for another prolonged run then of quite warm weather going through the weekend and on into next week. This 1st of October just here, and temperatures are staying above average. We get through to around the 5th, and then the suggestions that we might start to see a bit of a cooling trend towards the latter stages of next week. We might start seeing things turning a bit cool. There's a lot of scatter in there, actually, so it's hard to say quite what will happen. But the overall trend of the ensemble, which is this white line just here, is for it to start to cool off as we get through in towards the around the 5th, 6th of October. But of course, we're only going down back towards the 30-year average, nothing particularly cold being suggested. Very, very dry for the coming week. This is up to the 1st of October. It's hardly any precipitation spikes at all. Going beyond that, we do bring them back very gradually. That is the trough in the Atlantic, that deep trough that I showed you at the start, is pushing into the high pressure, trying to break high pressure down. And some of these members of the ensemble that bring these precipitation spikes back towards the end of the ensemble, in the unreliable time frame, some of those ensemble members are no doubt breaking down the high pressure fully and bringing the Atlantic through. But because it's at the extended end of the GFS ensemble, it's hard to have any confidence in that solution. And generally, the next week to 10 days, lots of dry weather still coming up. The temperature anomaly for the coming week from the 23rd of September to the 1st of October shows that we're going to be warmer than average, only in most pink colours, so another warm week is coming up. Very dry week coming up as well from the 23rd of September to the 1st of October. We're in those red colours, so rainfall anomalies are coming out below average. So here's the GFS model for a week's time. This is the operational run of the GFS, the 30th of September, the last day of the month, and high pressure is still going on, still dominating the conditions. We move through to day 10, and as I said, because the trough in the Atlantic is so deep, it is putting that high pressure under pressure. So as we get through to day 10, Friday the 3rd, there is signs on just this morning's run of the GFS that high pressure is beginning to be pushed back towards western parts of Russia. The low pressure is starting to come in off the Atlantic, starting to break down that high pressure and turning it more unsettled. As we go out beyond that, I won't show you the chart beyond that, but it does turn properly unsettled by the time we get through to the end of the first week of October. But it's so far away that we can't have any sort of confidence in that solution, particularly as the models have been forecasting around this time frame, day 10, been forecasting quite a lot through September that the high pressure be broken down, and it's never really happened. So as I say, just no real confidence in that solution. But it is plausible because the trough is so deep in the central part of the Atlantic. The East MWF for a week's time, Tuesday the 30th of September, shows that again got a lot of high pressure influences around the country. There's that deep trough forming off the coast of Greenland. As we move through to day 10, Friday the 3rd, well, the high pressure is fading off the low in the Atlantic, really. It's still there across central parts of Europe, still bringing up this very warm southerly flow. All the low pressures are being held off in the Atlantic. I think that's still firmly really locked into high pressure anticyclone conditions. So it remains warm and mainly dry going out into the start of October. The GEM, the Canadian, for day 10 on Friday the 3rd of October, shows that again got a lot of high pressure around the country. Weather systems are trying to break through from the northwest, but really they're being held at bay out to the northwest of the country, and high pressure sort of holds sway. So are we ever going to get any autumnal conditions this year? It's getting well on into the autumn now. Of course, today is the vernal equinox, but when we deal with the statistics, autumn starts on September the 1st. We're looking at least going into the first week of October with a lot of fine and summery weather. So are we ever going to get an autumn, or will we go straight from summer-like conditions to winter? That can happen sometimes. I'll leave you with the charts from 1985, which saw really sort of warm and mainly dry September and October. Here we are on the 27th of September 1985 with a lot of high pressure around the country. It was a pretty warm month, lots of dry weather as well. That went on into October with lots of high pressure continuing through October. It was a warmer than average month and very dry as well. But as we get through to November, suddenly it flipped in 1985. We took high pressure up towards Greenland. We pulled down this very cold northerly wind on the 2nd of November, right at the start of the month. It flipped from summer-like conditions in the latter stages of October to winter in November. Never really had an autumn in 1985, and it stayed very cold throughout the month. So here we are at the end of the month on the 26th of November 1985, still with all this blocking up over Greenland, still bring down these very cold northeasterly winds. There's a lot of frost and even some snow through November 1985. Now, I wouldn't necessarily say that's the way things are going this autumn, so don't get carried away with the idea that we're going to flip from summer to winter and never really have an autumn. But it can happen. It does happen occasionally. 1981 example, maybe 2005 another example, although it was a sort of a wetter autumn, that one. So more of an autumnal autumn until it got cold at the end of November. But you get the idea that just because we're having this very warm, dry, sort of settled autumn conditions, late summer conditions, it doesn't mean that it can't suddenly flip and turn really cold at some point. So we've just got to keep an eye on things, really. Will the high pressure be broken down through the first week of October, or will it carry on? My suspicion is that this high pressure probably has more in it than the Atlantic can throw at it just at the moment, so I would suspect it'll carry on quite a while into October. But we'll have to wait and see, and of course at some point we could get a flip and it might turn cold. So lots of ifs and buts, but the overall message from the video, to be serious, is that for at least next week, it's 10 days, high pressure continues remaining mainly dry and quite warm. That's it for now. Thanks for watching.